Hi, my name is Erica Schreck, and welcome to my second video in my Grief Ease series here on YouTube. I am showing up today to bring in another consideration in your journey of grief. Again, whether it was very recently or even if it were, just kind of some losses that you had a long time ago. Grief is a journey. And it is not something that we get through or that ever truly completely goes away. We just hopefully learn to carry it differently and more healthily. And in this series, I never intend to tell you how to grieve. It's just simply here, my presence here as support for you on your journey and some considerations. And I'm always looking forward to just hearing how this lands for you. So one of the first things that I wanted to talk about as we journey with grief is this idea that, and maybe you've heard it too, these beautiful words that feel so true. And they are something like, grief is just love with no place to go. And maybe you've noticed that the routines you had with a pet, the routines you had with a human, the calls that you always were able to share with somebody, or the visits, or whatever your circumstances and experiences have been with your deceased loved one and or loved ones who are no longer on the planet in physical form, there is that sense of missing what you used to do together and share together physically, right? And so a couple of things that I want to just really bring out into the attention today is give your grief and your love places to go. What does that mean? What can that look like? And you might even already have a sense of this. When we actually do things that perhaps we were already doing with that person. So for example, you can call a deceased person's phone, or even pretend to, or get outside and take a walk and actually talk to that person. Is it the same? No, you're not getting the response perhaps that you had in live time. Or I know that when one of my dogs initially died, one of the hardest things for me to do in the morning was get out of bed, because the first thing that I would do after getting up and having a glass of water was to walk him. And so those very first days, I tried to get up and just go out and walk, even with his collar in my hand. And some of these things may appeal to you and some may not be for you. What I found though is I needed an energetic and or physical expression to help me not substitute for the deceased loved one, but to actually utilize that energy that was just so trying hard to go somewhere and so trying to be expressed for that being who is no longer with me physically. So when my dog died, for example, to get out of bed, I had to just try something new and tell myself, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to light a stick of incense and I'm just going to think of him. I'm going to say something to him or something positive, and just really feel into this idea that I am doing this for him. He's not here. I can't pet him anymore. I can't necessarily go and walk him, but I can do these other acts that gave my love, gave my grief a place. One of my favorite things to do, and if you know me and my work, this will not come as a surprise, but I love to create an altar. I am sitting next to an altar, and an altar can be simple. That lighting the stick of incense was an altar, and that's all I had in this little sweet space for that smoke and that intention. Some of my altars are quite elaborate, and I'll show some photos as I'm talking about this on the screen so you can see some ideas, but it's what you make it and what you're called to do. When some people celebrate, for example, Dia de los Muertos every year, it's a beautiful way to hold space and honor a loved one with photos, with favorite foods, right? So I'm just giving that as an example. But any time of year, you are invited to just set up a space. And I think that an altar is one of the most helpful things to do, with photos, with a candle that you burn safely when you feel like it. Maybe you put some items, personally of that person, like a dog collar, cat collar, or, I know from when my dad died too, he had some items on his person, like in his wallet, like he had a laminated 4-leaf clover. And so I put that, on an altar space for him, just as I thought about him, or his belt buckle. In fact, it's right here. I'll show you this just in live time. Some of you have seen this. My dad was a Harley Davidson kind of man, so I've had this on an altar in honoring him. Whatever it might be for you and whatever helps you feel really wonderful, give your love and grief places to go. And another form of this can be an intentional act. Maybe it's not something that you exactly did, with that person, but you can do something like it or something similar and gift that time and energy and love to someone else or to nature. So one of my dearest friends died a few years ago, and Aparna and I wrote letters for at least 20 years with our fountain pens, these handwritten, beautiful letters. And for me, taking those out and reading them was one thing that helped. What really helped me is I actually created a postcard with some of her last original art, and I sent little notes of love to friends and to clients and family to not only carry on the writing part, but also to do something as an intentional act of love and put that energy somewhere and into something positive in honor of her. So tune into what feels good for you. How can you create and use channels for your love and for your grief? Because when you think about it, think about automatic withdrawals that we have with our bank, right? We're just used to doing certain things out of routine. And when that doesn't happen, it's something shifts, right? And so we do things so automatically or out of routine in practice and with love and in connection with others. So think about what you can do differently, perhaps as an intentional act. And again, even carrying on traditions. Maybe you go to the coffee shop you used to meet the friend at, and you just either invite another person or you sit there and you write and journal and reflect. Maybe you take a walk and, like I said earlier, talk to the beloved deceased whom you're missing. It's what is meaningful for you. It's what feels useful in where you can again express and put that love and that grief. Grief needs release, okay? It's great to cry. It's great to laugh. It's great to express the anger, whatever emotions are up. You just don't want those to build so much so that they're like a balloon that will burst soon. So you want to think about taking care of yourself in healthily grieving and releasing those emotions. And with love, there are so many ways to express the love that was previously using energy to go to that beloved deceased, and how can you and how do you really want to share that love and put it in another place for now. So I leave you with that today in our series of Grief Ease. Blessings on your journey, and until next time, be gentle and kinder with yourself.